What is up, everybody? It is Tuesday, October 3rd. This is the Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show, and as it is Tuesday, it is all NFL talk. Week 4 just happened. A lot of game action, a lot of news to get into. I'm Jerry Walker. Alongside me making his Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show debut is Jack Reno. Jack, before we hop into things, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
No complaints at all. Anytime we get to talk sport, it is a great thing. I love
I
what
agree.
doesn't matter the sport. It's always fun to do. Wanna before we hop into that stuff, you're relatively new to Vendetta. How are you liking it so far?
So far, it's been good. I became a sports contributing intern at the beginning of September. I interviewed with Trey. Things went well, and been here for about a month now, or actually a little less than a month, and put out almost I think like 18 articles right now. And so I've really been like getting into the flow of how things work. How to do certain posts, how to cover certain sports, and it's been fun to be able to keep up with it in this way. It's something I did in high school. It's something that I've always really enjoyed to do. So it's been a good time so far.
Yeah, love to hear that. It's definitely a fun thing to do. Definitely fast moving industry, which
Hmm.
makes it fun. But what are you covering exactly? Mostly NFL stuff, variety of
Yeah,
sports.
mostly just NFL, NBA, MLB, and then college football. So just the big ones for now. I've been trying to focus a bit more towards NBA.
Okay.
That's something that I talked to some other people about, and when the season starts very soon, that's something I'll definitely be hyper focusing on to try to really get my name out there in that sport. So,
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, NBA season's come around the corner. We had media day yesterday for a number of teams. I know
yep,
players have come back. It's right around the corner. That and hockey. It's a great time for sports. We have baseball
yeah,
playoffs, NBA, NHL coming back,
this is the
NFL
best time of the year for
full
sure.
swing. I'm a soccer fan, so I love that. That's all on at the moment.
Hmm.
Great time to be a sports fan. But
Oh
we
yeah.
are going to hop into some NFL. And just want to start with, in my opinion, what was probably one of the more exciting games of the week. That Sunday night football game with the Chiefs and the Jets. What were your thoughts on that one? Because the Chiefs didn't look great,
No, they didn't.
and the Jets
Um,
still look like the Jets.
yeah, I mean, I think Zach Wilson definitely showed some character out there. I think he showed some mental toughness. I mean, that guy has
Mm.
taken an absolute beating on social media, even from Joe Namath, right? I mean, you saw that whole thing that went down with Aaron Rodgers responding to Joe Namath's comments on him, and the fans are booing him at home, and just a plethora of things that this guy's got to deal with. Aaron Rodgers goes down the opening drive, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm back in the game," right? Um, I think he had a nice outing though. He outperformed Mahomes, which is rare. And I think that overall they played okay. The defense played well. They had that holding call on that what would have been the third interception on Mahomes that got called back. That was a crucial moment in the game that ended up probably being what ended it for him. Um, but overall, I think the Chiefs looked a bit weak out there. I think the Jets showed a little bit of promise. I think Zach Wilson showed some promise that if he keeps trending in this direction, they could actually do something with him. So,
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's been so much pressure on him, and I thought getting Rodgers gives him time to kind of sit in the background, learn from one of the best quarterbacks of our recent generation, and kind of just mature a bit as a player. Because I think it sounded like something that was an issue last season was he was still kind of that young kid, still had all those expectations as the number 2 overall pick, a lot of pressure on him to do something with a Jets team that still has the longest playoff drought in the NFL.
yep.
This one looked like it was the first real glimpse of what he could be. Finished with 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, and
Hmm.
I saw a stat saying this is the first time in college or the NFL that an opposing quarterback has outperformed Patrick Mahomes in yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. So that's always a big thing. And to do it on Sunday night football, I think is just even better for him.
Yeah, I mean, with all those people watching, a lot of people they claim that they can block out the noise and all this kind of stuff, but when you've got that many fans at home who have been booing you in the past, right? You've got a lot of stars in the house. Everybody's watching you. Everybody's trying to see how you respond to everything that's been thrown at him. So I think, like I said, if he can somehow continue this momentum, he could maybe pull the Jets into the playoffs somehow, but it's still not looking too good.
Yeah, it's still a rough thing. And I mean, I want to say they're one of two teams I saw that hadn't had a big lead or some sort of lead this season. It was them and the Giants. So another Jets have a win, but I think that came very, very late.
Yeah.
So it's been a rough season for Jets fans, even Giants fans as well. That New York football is all about Bills.
Almost worse for Giants fans.
It's bad. We'll get into that right after, because that's one that you need to talk about how bad they've been. But
definitely.
As far as the weapons he has around him, we're both 49ers fans, so we're used to seeing a plethora of weapons.
Yeah.
And really, under the radar, this Jets team does have talented players. Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook. I know Dalvin Cook hasn't really done much this season, but he's still a relatively strong running back.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson's a top level or almost top level wide receiver. Allen Lazard's shown some promise with the Jets so far. Obviously, we know that would have been better had it been Rodgers.
Right. That connection in Green Bay.
As well as Randall Cobb's connection with Aaron Rodgers. They're an interesting team. I can see him doing something. It's just a matter of kind of the confidence building. I think it's going to take a few more weeks for Zach Wilson to really be set and not the shock of, I'm suddenly back. I wasn't expecting to play all that much.
And as you know, too, Robert Saleh was 49ers on the coaching staff for the 49ers. And so I think also for him getting that head coaching job, he gets thrown into, a big situation. They're on Hard Knocks, right? So everybody was watching how they were preparing in camp. And then obviously, as we talked about, Rodgers goes down. And, it's a tough way to start your head coaching career. So if he can try to get comfortable as well and really get back to what he knows how to do best, I think that the team itself can get more comfortable, because that's their leader at the end of the day. So it revolves around him.
It really is. But I want to touch quickly before we move on the Chiefs side of things, because this game was kind of ugly.
Yeah.
But these are the kind of games that championship caliber teams usually find ways to win. It doesn't matter. It's on the road against a tough crowd, which obviously the crowd's booing the Jets a lot of time, but you're on the road. Didn't look great, but found a way to win. Were you surprised at how kind of mediocre they really did look? I know there's all this stuff with Travis Kelce, which I don't really want to talk about, but that's relatively big news there, I guess. But it just seemed like the only player that really had a good game was Isaiah Pacheco.
Well, and that's why you see why Patrick Mahomes got paid so much money, right, on that contract, and really started that wave of quarterbacks receiving these absurd deals. Everybody was like, okay, they have secured their future with Mahomes with that blockbuster deal, and it pays off almost every game. I mean, this is arguably the weakest wide receiver core he's ever played with in his career, and he can elevate their game, right? He can still have them find ways to win, keep them competitive. They're going to be a playoff team if he continues to play the way that he always does. And they're just a good team whenever he's on the field. They're hard to beat. They're hard to keep up with. So I think that's why you see them showing these flashes of weakness, but then Mahomes just comes right back and puts them where they need to be.
Oh, absolutely. My bad on that.
You're good.
Acting wild. But no, it's anytime you have Mahomes, he's still probably the best quarterback in the league. It's going to find ways to win games, and this is one of them. But I don't know. I don't think they're really a Super Bowl caliber team this year. I don't think they have enough offensively, not enough receiving talent, which they've had in the past, and that's been the big difference maker.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Bills are so up in the air with them. It's, they dropped 48 points on the Dolphins, and then other times Josh Allen is committing all these turnovers, and then, the Dolphins are looking good, and then they get smacked by the Bills. I think the American conference is, the AFC is just, it's kind of up in the air right now. There's no clear definitive team that will come out of that conference.
No, not at all. That makes it for some exciting football because I mean, there's probably you could say 4, maybe even 5 teams that could throw their hat in the ring for being the Super Bowl representative from the AFC.
Definitely.
We're only a quarter of the way through the season, or just about that mark. I know we 4 games played. We do 17 now, so not quite, but we're right there. So it's still a long way to go, but we'll see what happens next. Dude, we were talking Jets. We'll talk some Giants because they have just looked pitiful. Another
they're awful.
Embarrassing loss on national TV. This time in Seattle Seahawks losing 24-3. And I play in a fantasy football league that's a reverse league where you lose points for like a touchdown. You get points for
Okay.
Daniel Jones, for the second time this season, is the highest scoring player, which means he was terrible. I know he's sacked a lot. It's just I don't see how they get any better.
I don't either. That offensive line is just sad. I think the Seahawks had 11 sacks last night. So you've got your quarterback who's on a huge deal. I believe it's 40 million a season, right? That Daniel Jones is on. And he's just getting hit, right? I mean, last night it just looked like, okay, he snaps the ball, pocket collapses, he doesn't find anybody, he either gets sacked or he scrambles, right? So either way, your $40 million guy is getting hit, right? Over and over and over again. And these are big dudes that don't hit, they hit hard, right? And you kind of wonder how much longer can his body sustain that, right? So they have a real issue on offense. Their quarterback is bound to get hurt. They are a terrible first half team. I think they've been outscored like 77-9 or something in the first half this season. They're awful at home. That team has a lot to fix.
Yeah, it's really amazing that they even beat the Cardinals, and that was still an ugly game.
Yeah, that game was weird. And then the Cardinals go on to beat the Cowboys. It's any given Sunday, right?
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
Not add up.
No.
But
not at all.
Even looking at his stats, it was just bad. He finished with a 22 QBR. For those who know, it's out of roughly 152 or 53.6 is the highest you can get. Finished with 22.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how he keeps getting these hits, getting sacked. He also led the team in rushing. So that's another thing we've seen with players in the past, RG3, Colin Kaepernick to an extent.
Yep.
Even Lamar Jackson is these guys who are running a lot, get hit a lot, and it doesn't always end well. And that's something else that might be taking a toll on him is he finished with 66 yards. Matt Breida, their actual running back, finished with 30. It was a bad performance from the Giants.
Yeah, just terrible.
And it wasn't even like the Seahawks played that well. Geno Smith threw for 110 and a touchdown. That was it. Kenneth Walker, 79 yards rushing, a touchdown. It wasn't like it was an impressive win by the Seahawks. It was more just terrible on national TV yet again.
Yeah, and I think the Seahawks defensive performance, right? I mean, they're not an awful defense, but I mean, Daniel Jones is making a lot of these guys look like Hall of Famers, right? And so with the amount of sacks, there was that pick six towards the end of the game. The Giants defense is always on the field, right? Yeah. They're getting tired. They're always out there, and that's going to lead to points for the other team when your defense just can't get a break, right? I mean, there's all these 3-and-outs and interceptions and he had a fumble that he lost last night as well, right? And it's like we can't keep these guys off the field. So that team truly, I looked at the power rankings and they're not last, and I kind of wonder why. They are bad. Very bad.
I think the reason they're not last is because of one of those Broncos and Bears teams, which
they have a win. A couple teams don't, but when you really watch this team play and you really see what's going on to them, I mean, you could argue that they are the worst team in football.
Oh, absolutely. And I gotta say they've also not like that they haven't been playing terribly, but they played the Cowboys absolutely flawed.
Yeah.
The second half of Arizona, that was just weird. As we said, that game was weird. Down, 29 or 28-0, came back to win. Then they
Yeah,
played
that
the,
was crazy.
then they played the Niners, another Super Bowl contending team, got thrashed. And then the Seahawks. This seemed like their easiest game so far, but the Seahawks aren't that easy of a team, and they just ran them away. It's
Yeah.
been bad, bad, bad for the New York football teams, and I don't see it getting much better anytime soon.
No, neither do I.
Do you want to just touch on that dumpster fire of a game, Broncos Bears? Because
I really like that game. It was looking awful for the Broncos and Russell Wilson, right? They were down, I think, 28-7.
Yep.
At one point, and I was doing so. I was busy at the time. I couldn't really watch it that much, but I was keeping up with it. And then I was like, oh, it's tied 28-28, and then the Broncos won, and I think I saw some people call that the Caleb Williams Bowl.
Yep.
Right? Who's going to get him? And then there's some rumors that he might stay. Who knows? But there was just two really bad teams duking it out, and you've got Russell Wilson, who seems to have just lost his touch since leaving Seattle, and then Justin Fields, who, if you break down some of his film, just he's slower than he was last season to get the ball off. He consistently misses wide open receivers. He loves to scramble, right? He loves to run. He loves to it seems like he's kind of just a run first guy, which should not be the case. But both of those teams are total disasters. And Sean Payton is just looking more and more like a fool week by week with those comments about Nathaniel Hackett. So they got a lot to fix over there as well. They're in a Giants situation. So
yes, they are. And I mean, Russell Wilson definitely, being from Denver, all my friends are Broncos fans, part of my family's Broncos fans, and they were so high on Russell Wilson when he first signed. And I was like, can't forget, this guy broke his throwing hand the season prior, and it wasn't early in the season where he recovered. It was at the end of the season. He still doesn't look like he's gotten comfortable being back there. Offensive line struggles for the Broncos, but this one they just found a way to do it, which surprising. I mean, looking at the stats, Fields went off 335, 4 touchdowns, did have a pick, but those are good enough numbers for any quarterback.
It was definitely a good showing. Definitely a good showing. And then, you kind of think it's like, okay, he's got a good showing, but it's the Broncos, right? It's the Broncos defense, the defense that just gave up the infamous 70. So I'm rooting for the guy. I want to see him do well, but it's not looking good.
No, it's not. There is one quarterback I do want to touch on before we move to. I know you want to talk on the Niners. I want to talk on the Niners, and with that big game against the Cowboys coming up this weekend, CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. He has looked very, very good so far.
Yeah, he has. Definitely looked a lot better than Bryce Young. I believe he's the 6th rookie quarterback to throw for 300 in all of his first 4 starts, I believe is the stat. It's something like that. But he's been doing well. The Texans are 2-2, which I think is a little bit better than most people thought. They've got a first-year coach, again, from the 49ers, in D'Amico Ryans. And I think that they didn't really have too much to prove this season, but I think they'll definitely exceed their expectations just because of his play alone.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it gives them also a benefit that they're in that AFC South, which it's not looked good so far. Sure, Jacksonville got a big win this weekend, as did Tennessee, but Tennessee was playing the Bengals. Tennessee's not looked good this year. It's been a rough time for them. Jacksonville's up and down. It just doesn't seem like they found consistency yet. And then Colts and Texans are both there in the rebuild with a rookie quarterback. So this is a year Texans could surprise some people if CJ Stroud keeps playing as well as he has. And not saying that they'll win the division, but they could make a run towards that division. And
definitely
put pressure on whoever ends up ultimately winning it. So makes it
definitely. Yeah, it's got to be nice, a team that has struggled a lot the past few years, Total rebuild, right? They've gotten some really high draft picks over the years, and it seems like the Ohio State quarterback might be their guy moving forward, which is it's nice when you finally draft some stability, right? You see some of these first round guys that are just kill it in college, and things go wrong, and it's just like the fans and the team is just sitting there like, we had all these terrible seasons for what, right? It's like for nothing sometimes, but it looks like he might lead them somewhere, and they might have their guy for at least a few years.
Yeah,
So
really might. On that note, I mean, I saw something over the past 24, 48 hours since that game happened saying that CJ Stroud is already the best quarterback to have come out of Ohio State. I mean, hard not to agree with that, but I mean, sure, Justin Fields has had his moments. But even then, after you think about that, it's Terrell Pryor came out of Ohio State, ended up being a wide receiver.
yeah.
God, no, I'm blanking on. Cardell Jones came out, didn't really even play much in the NFL. It's been a long time since we've seen a solid Ohio State quarterback, and
Yeah.
he was the one.
Yeah, they've had a rough history for sure of quarterbacks. It's definitely not been a school that's been, too well known for producing them. They've definitely killed it in other areas, but they might be right about that with Stroud. If he continues, I mean, even close to this for the rest of the season, you could probably book that.
Yeah. But I guess my last question on CJ Stroud is how legit do you think he is? What do you think his ceiling is this season? Is he rookie of the year, Ken? Or front runner? What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think I think he's definitely going to be in the conversation for rookie of the year. He's got to be one of the favorites. I think he could even lead the Texans to 7 or 8 wins, and like you said, I think they could actually scare some people a little bit and maybe be a little bit competitive for that division crown. But overall, I think him and D'Amico Ryans and the rest of the offensive coordinators and the rest of the offensive staff are going to try to figure out exactly how to keep him in this stride so that for next season and the one following, hopefully they can make some signings that help him on the offensive side, and maybe they could really turn it into something and win the division again. So I think that's where he could be. For as far as his ceiling, I don't know. I think it may be a little too early to tell, in the same way it is with Bryce Young. Bryce Young has struggled a little bit, and I don't think we've had just enough time yet to like really see where these guys can go. But
Absolutely. I mean, looking at the Texans' schedule, it's really a favorable the upcoming few weeks. They play the Falcons, the Saints, the Panthers, the Bucks in their next 4. Those are 4 very winnable games against the NFC South, who has also just looked atrocious this season.
Mm-hmm.
Then you play the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Jags, the Broncos, the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they could be a dark horse for that that division, and a lot of those teams you can expect the Texans to be competitive in those games, definitely competitive, and you can expect them to take a few of those.
Oh yeah,
I think
I would agree completely. I mean, the ones I see that they could lose, Buccaneers, because some reason they keep finding ways to win with Baker Mayfield. I keep thinking that they're not that good, and then they go out and beat the Saints very comfortably this weekend.
Yeah.
Bengals on the road. Maybe by then Joe Burrow's looking like Joe Burrow because he's looked atrocious.
Atrocious. But the thing is like he's hurt, right? And so you got this this star quarterback, he gets hurt, but then you sign him to one of the biggest deals ever, right?
The biggest.
And the front office, we all know in most sports, front offices hate looking stupid, right? They hate taking the blame. There's always these scapegoats, right? It's always someone else's fault.
Yep.
And in this case, it's really looking like this dude is playing through injury. It's clearly not himself. He has proven numerous times that he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league, but right now he's playing like a bottom 5 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's crazy to see that he gets paid that money and then just instantly is just looking terrible.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think they need to let him rest or recover or whatever the situation is. But it's not looking good, and Jamar Chase is looking frustrated as well. It's a bad situation in Cincinnati right now.
oh, it really is. I mean, there was all that hope. They've been so good since they drafted Joe Burrow, and it's just now it kind of is that back to reality. I don't think they should have started him the first couple weeks of the season. He still wasn't
No,
healthy from his preseason injury. That was just bad managing, bad coaching
bad.
at this point. It's you
And what are they? One and
rushed him back
three?
for what? 3 losses, win. That wasn't worth it. Let him rest
Yeah,
the first couple games and let him get healthy, come back out and start actually winning games and winning comfortably because they're just going from bad to worse every week. And
yeah,
capped off this week by getting blown out by a Tennessee side that has shown very little life all season.
yeah. I mean, you're looking at the results of poor management, right? And poor decision makers. You start the season 1-3, and on the outside looking in, that deal looks terrible, right? But when you really break it down, is this really Joe Burrow's fault? Partially, right? But not. I don't think he's fully to blame. But in the media and like I said, outside perspective, people that don't really dig too deep into it, he's the scapegoat in this situation right now. So
Yeah,
it's a bad situation when you look at it, because what can start happening is some of that team chemistry gets a little out of whack. Players stop trusting each other. Like Jamar Chase said the other day in the media, I'm always open, right? I'm always open. And it's like, is he talking to Joe Burrow about that? I thought these guys were friends, right? I thought these guys were tight. That's a great connection, and now it's looking a little bumpy. So that's what happens when your management and the front office is making poor decisions like that.
yeah, definitely is. I mean, it's just unfortunate because I really enjoy watching the Bengals play when they're high powered, slinging, running. Joe Mixon's looked invisible this year now. It's
Yeah,
nothing's going their way, and it could lead for a very, very long season.
yeah,
Fortunately,
that's what it's looking like right now. Yeah,
Steelers have looked terrible. Ravens and Lamar Jackson have looked surprisingly good. As
hmm
have as much as it hurts me to say the Browns with Deshaun Watson. I know he wasn't playing this weekend, and they got smacked about at home by the Ravens.
yeah,
But it's that division's funky, and the Bengals look like one of the two that'll be missing out on playoff chase.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. The Ravens are the clear front runner for that one, and maybe the Browns could sneak in there. I think the Steelers, they played our Niners, and ooh, they looked bad. That game, they got handled. But I think it's going to be Ravens Browns, and then Steelers Bengals. We'll see who gets last place there. But
It doesn't look good for any of those two
no,
teams, really. And the big ones this weekend, Ravens and Steelers. So maybe that'll be more showing of where these two teams are at. I
yeah,
still think the Ravens go in there and beat the hell out of them in Pittsburgh, but that's just my thinking.
yeah. I think the Ravens will have a good showing against them. They'll probably beat them by I want to say at least 10.
Yeah.
So
We've talked about some terrible teams. I do want to talk about some good teams from this weekend. We'll start with our
yeah,
49ers. What a win. Offense
yeah,
was incredible. Brock Purdy, 20 for 21. McCaffrey, 4 touchdowns. Ayuk, 148 yards. It was just an all around solid offensive performance.
yep,
Little iffy on defense in that second half, giving up a 99-yard drive that resulted in a touchdown. But end of the
yeah.
day, Niners still find a way to win.
Yeah, that third quarter was a little shaky, but I think you could agree with this. I think we have a dark horse candidate for MVP on our team, and it is Christian McCaffrey. Um, he, I don't really think there's any other way to describe him besides he just looks unstoppable when
Oh,
he's playing. I, I mean, I think he's scored 7 touchdowns this season, 6 rushing touchdowns, and 1 receiving. He's insane.
And you look at it, he with a touchdown this weekend, he broke Jerry Rice's record.
Hmm
One of the greatest football players, probably the best wide receiver of all time.
Yep.
His record of most games most most games in a row with a touchdown for the Niners regular season. He had 12. McCaffrey just got his 13th consecutive touchdown game. I don't see anyone really stopping him either. That offensive line for the Niners is so good. Sure, the Cardinals aren't that good of a team at the moment. Still in that rebuilding era. Josh Dobbs playing quarterback isn't really putting the fear into opponents. Defense is not great, but still.
Like you mentioned earlier, though, I think the biggest test by far for where this team truly stands will be Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, right? Even though they lost Trayvon Diggs, that is still a great defense that has held teams. I mean, look what they did to the Patriots this past weekend. They annihilated them, right? So it's a high-powered offense with some great defensive players. It's going to be a great game. This is, I think, the best that both teams have been in a while when playing each other. Oh, yeah. And we'll really get to see what Christian McCaffrey can do against a team of that caliber. He's been doing now, then we could definitely say he could win the MVP award, because it's not just against bad teams. He can do it against.
I know the Cowboys have at least 4 defensive special teams touchdowns this season. Only 6 players are like skill position players, not quarterbacks. Only 6 players have more than 4 touchdowns. Cowboys defense has been outstanding, and I mean, offense has been a little shaky at times, but it doesn't have to be that good. This gives me reminders of the old Seattle teams where the Legion of Boom was on fire. The Broncos, the year they made the Super Bowl, because sure they had Peyton Manning, but it was that defense that carried them through all of that because he got hurt.
Yep.
All the teams, the Ravens, we've seen with great defense. It's the saying, defense wins championships, and that's something the Cowboys have an abundance of, even without Trayvon Diggs. It's Micah Parsons is on fire. The whole defense has just looked superb, and it's going to be a real test on Sunday night for the Niners.
Oh, definitely. Offense. Yeah, I mean, I think this will be our biggest game this year, besides the postseason. This will really give Niners fans and the team the biggest tell of our Super Bowl odds in general. I think, if we beat the Cowboys and handle them, I mean, the Niners are already one of the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl. If they handle the Cowboys, though, I think they'll, just be the absolute clear favorites, right? They'll be the team to beat, which they kind of already are, but that'll really, really solidify it.
They're one of 2 undefeated teams still, the Niners are. Them and the Eagles. As much as the Eagles are 4-0, made the Super Bowl last year, something seemed off about them recently. Definitely this past week they got better. But the first few games of the season haven't looked like the typical Eagles. And even this weekend, they needed overtime to beat a relatively bad Commanders team.
Yep. And then, that definitely plays into your point that they don't look the same. They really haven't. I haven't really been impressed by them this season. I think they were a lot better last year. Yeah. And I think that 4-0 record is kind of similar, if you remember, when the Niners started 8-0 in the 2019-2020 season. Remember those segments? A lot of people were saying, are these contenders or pretenders, right? Which one is it? And then the Niners solidified these are contenders, right? With a couple victories and then making it to the Super Bowl. Is this team a contender or are they pretenders? Is that 4-0 record real, right? So that's something we'll have to find out soon.
Yeah, it's still very early in the season. I mean, you said it was 8-0 with the Niners when there were still those conversations. So a lot of football to be played. Cowboys still have to play the Eagles a couple times.
Those are going to be great games too.
Yes,
the fact that they get to play twice is really nice.
We're spoiled as fans because one of those has to be coming up relatively soon. Oh no, not November and December. So when it matters the most as well.
Yep. Yeah, because that'll definitely affect seeding.
Yes, it will be. I mean, sure, they say the Niners lose this weekend against the Cowboys. Then it would just probably, all likelihood, the Cowboys and Eagles could play each other with 1 loss between the 2 of them that first meeting, and maybe 2 losses or 3 losses between them that second one, where you could have the 1 seed on the line in those games, and it's going to be very, very fun to watch because those 2 teams, those 2 fan bases already despise each other.
Oh yeah,
which you can't get any more except for when it's a big, meaningful game.
especially if you play when this game is played in Philly in the winter. Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be snowy. The Philly fans are notorious for being not the nicest fans in the world. We'll put it that way. But yeah, it's those will be must see TV.
Oh yeah.
Those games for sure. And I don't want to hear real quick. I don't want to hear the. I get it. Trayvon Diggs is hurt. I don't want to hear that excuse from Cowboys fans though. As much as Trayvon Diggs is an impact out there, he's a total ball hawk. He gave up the most yards last season by far. So yeah, he can pick the ball. You know, he's very good at reading the quarterback at times, but other times he gets smoked.
Yeah.
Out there.
It's almost like he's too set on picking off the ball, and he'll try and cheat the route and in front. And as soon as they misses, it's touchdown going the other way or big gain going the other way, waiting for a safety to come over and help out. He's kind of a boomer bust defender, cornerback. It's one of those things that very talented, but has his moments where, and I
don't remember how many picks he had last year. Was it double digits? I think it was, right?
I want to say it was like 12 or 13.
But then he gave up like 13 or 1,400 yards.
Yeah.
I think, which is just
it definitely wasn't great last year.
Yeah.
Oh no, last season he finished with, where is it? Can't even see his name. I don't know. I was trying to find it, but
it's just a little night and day with him.
Yes, very much so. It's definitely one to watch out for, but it's been going to be a rough season without. Oh, it was 2 years ago, 2021, where he had 11 interceptions.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, and that Cowboys defense is just superb. But clearly, his brother took it a little personally. Came out and had a 3-touchdown day this week for the Bills, and their big win.
Yeah,
I want to talk to you a little bit on that AFC East because it's interesting. We saw the Dolphins drop 70 last week. Really could have dropped even more. Then they go and get clapped by the Bills. Is it the Bills' division still? Is it still their division to lose?
Yeah, I think it is. Until the Dolphins prove otherwise. I think, they almost 50 points. I mean, yeah, we saw the Dolphins offense, break some records and stuff with that 70. They almost hit that 72 mark, right? But still, getting 48 dropped on you is a lot. That's a lot of scoring. And Josh Allen is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, despite his flashes of inconsistency and some questionable decisions that he makes on the field that have a lot of people criticize him. But until we're proven otherwise, that's the Bills division.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, this year it seems like it might be the Bills conference. We've seen the last few years, them, Kansas City, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's looked nothing like their usual self. Kansas City still 3-1, but looked very shaky at times. Mm-hmm. I do believe that week 1 was a fluke, still a little hangover. No Travis Kelce, so no real targets for Mahomes. It's just a ugly offensive performance. But I don't really see anyone this year beating the Bills. Especially if they get field advantage. Having to go to Buffalo in January and February is not an easy task.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that. I think that at the end of the day, the Bills' worst enemy is themselves. And it really does come down to Josh Allen's performance. If Josh Allen plays like the high-level quarterback that he has been ranked to be, they'll go to the Super Bowl. But if Josh Allen makes those mistakes, throws those picks, loses that ball when he's rushing, they'll shoot themselves in the foot and find a way to lose the game, right? And you've seen like some of those shootouts with the Chiefs, right?
Oh yeah.
It usually comes down to that one play that the quarterback makes, right? And Patrick Mahomes has prevailed most of the time.
Yeah, that and whoever wins the overtime coin toss.
Yeah, that too.
But no, I like Buffalo in the AFC. I think they're still they are the team to beat this year. I think they could actually put all the pieces together. They have all the receiving core you need, decent running game to an extent. Josh Allen's helpful. having him, and I wouldn't mind seeing Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Finally,
Neither would I.
it would be a nice change of pace instead of it being the Chiefs, which seems like at this point they're there every other year, if not every year.
Yeah, I mean they're technically one ring away from being a dynasty.
Yeah,
I think you need 3 for a dynasty, and I mean they've been to the AFC Championship game 5 years in a row
something like that.
with 3 Super Bowl appearances, right? Obviously two wins, one against the Niners that will forever haunt us. But yeah, I mean the Bills in the Super Bowl would be cool. I think they're definitely a team that deserves it. They have to make that play when it matters most, and they haven't been able to do that the past few postseasons.
Agreed. It's been very ugly playoff berths the last few years. It's
Yeah.
going to be something to see. On that note, I do have a couple more questions for you, topics to discuss. First one, what teams have surprised you the most this season through 4 games?
The Packers a little bit.
Okay.
The Packers have shown some flashes of a bright future for Jordan Love and Romeo Dobbs, who's actually a alumni of my school. Romeo Dobbs was getting criticized by Aaron Rodgers in his last year in Green Bay for dropping all those passes in the preseason and stuff, and now he has made some huge plays for that offense. Really, really good stuff from him. And Jordan Love looks pretty comfortable back there. We talked about it earlier. The Texans have been a little surprising. And then I guess the Bengals really, in a negative way, have really surprised
That's
me.
going to be my next question. You're disappointing teams, and that might be where
Yeah.
But those others, it's definitely surprising seeing them as bad as they are. We've talked quite a bit on that.
It really is. They've got they've had such a great past couple seasons for it to be going down the way that it is right now, and who the blame is on, right? The blame is on Joey B, which is you never really thought would happen. But yeah, I think maybe the Seahawks a little bit too have been a little surprising. They had a better season than they were expected to last year. And this year, they're definitely not a team to be overlooked. It's not a team to be played with. You got to take them very seriously when you play them.
Yes, you do. And I mean, we know that from the Niners' standpoint. It's those games. It doesn't matter if one team's 16-0, one team's 0-16. Those games are going to be close, and it's hard to win in Seattle. Hard to win. I get with their fans there, so those games are always fun to watch, no matter what happens. It's just a rivalry.
Yeah, and with Pete Carroll there, I mean they're just a tough team. They're well coached. They're a tough out, and they're definitely one of those teams that you don't really want to see in the playoffs. Like last season, the Niners handled them in the wild card, but that wasn't a favorable matchup. I wasn't excited to play them.
Definitely not.
So,
yeah, I guess I'll go on my teams that have surprised me. Kind of want to say the Colts because it's not like they've been anything superb, having a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson, but they're finding ways to win games they really shouldn't. I wasn't surprised they lost to the Jags. I thought they were going to lose the next 2 as well to the Texans and the Ravens. I thought the Colts would be 0-4 at this point.
mm-hmm.
Somehow beat the Ravens in Baltimore, beat the Texans in Houston, lost only their 2 home games, and they're home to Tennessee this weekend. Win there could give them the lead in that division because they're all 2-2 at the moment. So that'd give them that. But they've been one of the surprises. And I know apparently a lot of people were high on Detroit coming into the season.
Yeah.
I wasn't that high, and I've been very surprised to see how good and consistent they've been. Even their one loss against Seattle, they had a chance to win that game and kind of just messed it up late.
Yeah, the Lions, I love Dan Campbell, right? He's got a lot of heart. He really, really cares. He puts it on the line every game, right? And Goff has kind of revived himself a little bit. I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to heart for them. and mental toughness. That franchise and some of those players are tired of losing, right? They are tired of being the absolute laughing stock of the NFL, just being at the bottom of the leaderboard, week in and week out. It's enough is enough, and I think they're finally doing something about it.
Absolutely. They're fun. I've been very impressed with them, but on the other side of things, I don't want to get a couple of your teams that have disappointed you so far. I know you said the Cincinnati Bengals, but who else have you been less than impressed with?
Obviously the Bears. I mean, they are just atrocious. It's funny because when the Niners took Trey Lance, right, and things weren't panning out, people are saying, okay, Justin Fields was on the board, Mac Jones was on the board, right? And now we look at those situations. The Bears are terrible. Justin Fields probably would have been bad in San Francisco too. Yep. The Patriots are awful right now, right? Yeah. Mac Jones got benched for Bailey Zappi. I mean, right? So I think these teams, the Patriots and the Bears, their poor quarterback play is making that Trey Lance move look a little bit better.
A little bit
on the Niners end. Not, it was a bad move, but those teams have been very, very disappointing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why I'm surprised. Maybe the fact that the Bears are already seems like they're giving up on Justin Fields. Go for that tank. Go try and get Caleb Williams.
Yeah, it seems like that team has given up in general.
Yeah, it seems fans are against them. It's nothing can go right for the Bears at the moment, and I don't know if it will for much of this season. But
yeah, and obviously we touched on them a lot earlier, but the Giants, I think that the Giants are by far the most disappointing team in the league, without a doubt.
Yeah,
after that season they had last year, they're the most disappointing. They're the most underperforming by far, and Daniel Jones is looking like a mistake at the moment.
Yes, he is. The team I've been disappointed with, not necessarily the players, because two of the players have been outstanding. It's the Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting 1-3, Kirk Cousins is on pace for like 5,200 passing yards. Justin Jefferson's on pace for over 2,300 receiving yards. So record-setting numbers there. Yet they're 1-3.
Yeah.
They just cannot find ways to close out games and win games. I guess it's this defense has been the issue because they're putting up points. Lost a 3-point game on the opener against the Bucs. Lost a 6-point game against the Eagles when they put up 28. Put up 24 and then lost to the Chargers. Finally got a win this week, but it was against Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers, who are 0-4.
Yeah.
Now they have to play the Chiefs this weekend, then get a break against the Bears, then the Niners, and then the Packers. This team does not have an easy schedule, and it looks like they could get out of hand very quickly. And the team that won the division last year might be in real trouble of missing out on even a playoff berth this year.
Yeah, and it's funny because Kirk Cousins, I think, still does lead the league in passing touchdowns and passing yards, right? Which is that's massive, right? I mean, he's doing well. He's finding his targets, and they're still losing games, right? And so, I don't want to hear the Kirk Cousins can't play in prime time jokes, and I don't want to hear the it's Kirk Cousins' fault. It's not, right? It's clearly not his fault. He's doing his thing. They've had some success in the past with him playing as well as he is now, and now they're not. And it's just, I don't know. That team seems cursed at times. They really do.
Yeah.
They just can't get it together.
No, it's been a very, very tough breaks for them. And it's one of those teams that it'd be nice to see them do something relatively successful, yet at the same time, it's that whole NFC North is teams that it would be nice to see them do well. It's all a bunch of bad teams now. The only one who's had any success at all in the past 2 decades seems like it's been the Packers. I know the Bears made the Super Bowl one year with Devin Hester. They got smoked in Hawaii by the Colts.
Yep.
What was that, 07 or 08?
Yeah.
Then it's just been the Packers division with Rodgers just running the show. And it's nice that it's kind of changing up. We're looking on pace at the moment for a third different division winner in the last 3 seasons. Always makes it more interesting and exciting, but this
Definitely. Yeah,
division.
they're very up in the air, and even with the Packers' dominance, right? They won that Super Bowl in 2010, but since then, I mean, just uh,
mediocre.
Divisional losses, championship game losses, multiple times in a row, right? It's just they haven't been able to really get it to the promised land, and like we've talked about, the Bears have been abysmal. The Lions have been one of the worst teams in the history of the sport. Yeah. And then the Vikings have just been so. But yeah, it would be cool to see the Lions win that division, go to the postseason, and really maybe take control of that division for a little bit. But I think Jordan Love and the Packers might have something to say about that.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Jordan Love's looked surprisingly good, much better than I thought he would be out of the background and behind the shadows of Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be fun. A lot of football left this weekend. We've got, obviously, first weekend of byes, so that puts a different thing into the mix. So we'll see where we are in a week's time. But, Jack, do you have any final thoughts, any predictions, anything you want to talk about?
I think that pretty much. I'm super excited to see this next week. There's going to be some big games we talked about already, but I'm just really excited for that Niners-Cowboys game. Everybody's been talking about it. People were saying that we should even sit some players for a little bit against the Cardinals to make sure we're good and healthy for that Cowboys defense. That's going to be one of the biggest games of the season, and I think we will truly see potentially the Super Bowl winner come out of that game, which is crazy to say about the Cowboys, who have just had terrible stretches of luck. Same with the Niners, though, since the 90s. But those two teams are extremely dangerous. We talked about it earlier, too. Really excited to see if the Eagles are true contenders again, or if they're a little bit of maybe frauds. And then just want to see how the Bills, Dolphins, and Chiefs continue to handle their business. If we can find a front runner for that conference, because right now it's really up in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, tough games for all of those teams. Chiefs are at Minnesota. Jacksonville is at Buffalo. Dolphins are home to the Giants. So I guess there's a quick question. Do the Dolphins put up more or less than 70 points on the Giants defense?
I think less. Definitely less.
I would think less, but shaky.
Yeah, but there's just some days where just everything is clicking and nothing can go a certain team's way, and everything will go the other team's way. And I think that's what we saw. I mean, Tyreek Hill jumped into the stands and started celebrating with fans. I mean, nothing was gonna stop them that day. The Broncos, again, they're just awful, right? I do think the Dolphins could very well put up 35, 40 points. I think that's more realistic, but if they do break that 70 mark, then I think it will be official that the Giants are the worst team in the league. I don't care if there's teams that are still winless. You have to put them at dead last. If they give up, even if they give up like 50 plus, honestly.
If we give up 45 plus and get blown out, held to 2 field goals or something, then the debate's pretty bad. Because even the Bears have shown signs of life at moments. The Giants have shown nothing outside of that bizarrely miraculous second half against Arizona, which I attribute partially to the Cardinals not being a very good team in their own right.
That too. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, these teams that are almost fighting for last, right? But
we got a couple.
If something like that happens to the Giants, though, I think they need to go into tank mode and secure themselves a good pick, because that will be the only highlight of their season.
Absolutely. We got a couple of those other tanking games going on. Cincinnati at Arizona. The mighty New York Jets at the Denver Broncos. That's another thriller. But Jack, it's been a pleasure. We'll definitely get you back on this show sometime soon. Make sure you come back next Tuesday for the next episode of the Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show NFL edition. We have the UFC on Friday, NFL on Tuesdays, trying to get some NBA and NHL in the middle of the weeks once those seasons really get into full swing. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the Twitch page so you stay up to date with all of our video coverage. Jack, pleasure. Thank you guys
so much.
for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.